Welcome to Hochi Garden Homestead.
So we've been really busy today. Seasons are changing and leaves are starting to change colors, and before that happens there's several things that we want to do on the homestead to prepare our garden and our home for winter. One of the things that I love is having my fresh herbs in the summer, and there are several that don't actually go through the winter very well. A lot of them do. My sage stays very well, my rosemary stays very well, the curry stays very well, my chives for the most part do, and if it does get a hard freeze and they die back, they come back in the springtime, as does parsley and oregano and all those different herbs, thyme. And some places thyme will go through the winter. Here they do, unless we have a really hard freeze, and then they will die back, but they come back. Things that won't, in particular, the one I think of that I love the most and use a lot is the basil. It will not come back. Now, one thing you're going to want to do is decide if you're wanting to try to overwinter those inside. If so, now is the time that you're wanting to transplant those herbs. Whichever herb you want to do, your parsley you could do. Dig it up now, get it in a larger pot, and leave it outside in a shaded area so that it can adjust to the transplant. It will have a little bit of shock, but if you leave it outside in the weather that it's used to, that shock will be lessened. So leave it outside for a couple of weeks, and then you can take it into a sunroom or somewhere that has a very sunny area under a window, and they should overwinter for you very well. So that's the herbs. Now, I will admit, I do not do that. I do not take any of my herbs in. I have done basil. I have at one time done parsley. But I grow so much that I dehydrate a lot. And for the little time, 3 or 4 months that we don't have fresh, it doesn't really bother me all that much, although I would prefer the fresh. But I have plenty that I have dried, and so I won't do without. But rest assured, though, that many of your herbs will come back, and there are several that will overwinter. So then another thing you need to think about are your trees and different things that you can chop and drop. One in particular that we're going to work on today is our elderberry. We've already gotten the fruit off of it, so we're going to chop and drop that, and I'll show you what it is we do. And then the leaves we'll be putting around a tree, but the stems that we cut off, we do something very special with those, and I'll show you what to do with those. There are also some greens that I grow that are leaves are starting to change, and I don't want to lose that, so I'll be harvesting a lot of that for dehydrating, and that way I can have that nutrition during the winter time. And one thing about dehydrating your greens, when you dehydrate, if your dehydrator has a temperature setting on it, you want that on 115. For living food, you want it on 115. That way you're not cooking out the nutritions that are in your greens or your herbs or anything else that you dehydrate like that. So keep that in mind. And for your greens, it only takes, depending on the weather, of course, 3 to 6 hours. There are several hummingbirds just sitting right up there. That is so cool. So it only takes 3 to 6 hours. It's not a long process for dehydrating. So it's well worth the effort that it takes. And it does take a little effort. You can get a bowl about like this. I'll show you the bowl that I'm using, and I'll fill that bowl up, and I'll get about, I'll have to put through my dehydrator twice, fill it up twice, and I won't get a whole lot of greens from it, but Thinking about it, a fourth a teaspoon of that green in a smoothie is like getting, 10 to 15 of the leaves of, like, say, the Egyptian spinach or even the lamb's quarters. So well worth the effort. Will take me through the winter until it's growing again, and then I have it fresh again, which is my fave. Also, another thing that you're going to want to do for winter is you're going to want to heavily mulch your fruit trees. You want to heavily mulch your fruit trees so that they're protected from that hard cold in the winter. And it will also hold in moisture. And that's something that you don't want to forget about during the winter, is actually watering your garden area, your yard, your trees. A lot of people think it's winter time and you just don't have to do that. Yes, you do. They still need water. You need water in the winter. They need water in the winter. Another thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take some cuttings of some of the plants that I'm wanting to come back next year, like some annuals, like the pineapple sage. It's a beautiful plant and it's in full bloom right now, so I'm not doing that today, but very shortly I will, and I'll be taking cuttings about like this and putting that in a soil medium, and it will root because it's a hard stem and it will root. You want to be sure you have a couple of nodes in it. I'll actually, when I go to do that, I'm going to do a video on that, because I'll also at that time be doing my longevity spinach. Now, I started my longevity spinach with just a couple of stalks about like this, and I grew it out that year. Sorry, I'm getting attacked by something. I grew it out that year, and I cut off my toppings, because where you just like your Egyptian spinach, where you take your leaves off, lots of times it will sprout out. So you may start with 3 in that one area, but you're going to have a bunch of toppings on that area. And I took all the tops off of it, and so the next year I doubled to well, I did more than double, because I started with 3 and the next year I had like 15. And so from that year I took about 21. Now everything comes back every year, so I took about 21 toppings the next year, and so they are all 21 of them took. So it's a very easily propagated vegetable green, and it is really my favorite, the longevity spinach, and then next to that would be my Egyptian spinach. So and with those two I'll never be without, because the longevity spinach is easy to propagate. The Egyptian spinach gives you so many seeds that it is outrageous. So so there will be several things that I will be cutting and propagating, and that way next year I'll have it again and won't have to buy seeds or a plant, and I can also grow even more. So a Thai basil is another one that I'll be doing that way. So got to get to work. A lot going on the homestead right now, preparing the garden for winter, but right now it's just such a beautiful, beautiful garden. Okay, so this is one of the areas that we're going to do some chop and drop, and most people don't think about the elderberry as something that you can do that with. It's already made its fruit. We've already harvested the fruit. So right now, while it's green and it's full of all this nutrients, we're going to cut it down, which we cut it down last year also. And so we're going to cut it down again, because if you let elderberry go, it can be 20 foot tall. That's not what we want. We want to keep it the shrub length. So we'll cut it down to about hip length for me. And I'm going to have Stan come over here and do that. And then I'll take these leaves, little branches off, and I'm going to put that around our apple tree. I mentioned before that our apple trees had a little stress. In fact, we lost one of our apple trees, and because it was the fire blight that got them. And so we're just really wanting to pack the nutrients onto our apple tree, and we're going to do that with our elderberry. So Stan, if you'll cut these off to about my hip length, which is about right here.
Okay, so I'm going to cut like
and you're
right
going to always do it just
joint.
above a node. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to take all the little branches off with the leaves, because that's really all we're wanting. And something that a lot of people don't know is that now we can take this and we can put it into the ground and we'll have another elderberry tree. It's not 100%, every single one of them won't make, but 90% of them will. So if you're wanting to spread your elderberries, now's the time to do it. Once you've cut it down, you drop the stuff that's going to give the nutrients to the plants, and then you can use this to extend your elderberry harvest. And another thing is, right now it's very rainy here. In fact, we had to wait most of the morning to be able to get out and do this, but this is the time you want to do that, because you want your leaves green, you want to put them on the plants, and then the rain's going to come down and it's going to start washing those nutrients into the soil. And then as they decompose, it'll wash into the soil. But the best time to do your chop and drop is when it's raining. And so we're very fortunate. The Father's accommodating us. This is the day we had planned to get out here and do this, and He sent us rain.
So this is how you put it in this.
Good job.
Good job. Here, Asher, you want to come do this one?
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Just pull the leaves off like that and put it in the pile.
Boom. And then it turns into this stick.
The stick that you can plant and get another bush.
Yeah. Yeah. I know exactly the place where to put this.
Well, hello again. We're here to plant our elderberries. Kind of sorting through them right now. Went through, these are the ones we trimmed yesterday. We couldn't complete it yesterday because the rain, but today we're blessed with some sunshine, so we're going to get them planted. So I'm going to go through, sort them out. I'm going to trim off the bottoms, get a fresh cut on it. Then we'll start placing them over here in the new area. These I had already cut. Okay, I've got them all stuck in the ground basically. I just made a little hole, put them in there, covered them up, and now I'm going to go get some more soil and I'm going to cover over to build up the areas to make them stronger there. We just got through spreading elderberry leaves around the apple tree. Just kind of want to show you what it looks like and what we did and how we did it. And this is going to bring lots of nutrients and health to our tree.
We have taken up the okra and we put the leaves down where the okra was. We put the leaves down, and then the stalks we have taken over where we're digging the hugelkultur, and that is one of the things that we will be putting inside of that. Okay, something I'm going to do right now, because the weather is changing and winter is coming, and before things start, because leaves are just now starting to change color on some things, so before that happens, I want to get my nutritious leaves, and I'm going to start taking them all off because I will dehydrate them so that during the winter months I will have the nutrition from my Egyptian spinach. And as you know, everywhere you pull leaves, more are going to come up. So if weather continues really nice, we will get more leaves on here. Now the black eyed peas over here are doing really good. I mean, it's got a lot of blooms and everything on it. And I'm thinking that, because see, some I have left to dry, so for seed next year. And I'm thinking that I may do that for this whole bed, is let it all just go and dry and save it all for seed for next year. This is a Thai basil, and this is something that I will be propagating. I like to have this all throughout my garden. Oh man, that tastes so good. I love that flavor. So this is something I'm definitely going to propagate, and I want to have throughout my garden.